Yeah, a recording. Yeah. All right. Please.
Okay. Yeah. So for the first part of our pitch, our working story slug is first gen forward. And basically, it's going to be about all the first generation initiatives that we have on campus, and how GB has been designated as a first generation or first gen forward institution. So yeah, UWGB has been recognized as prominent university for first gen students. UWGB has been designated as a first gen forward institution, which is meant to recognize universities which prioritize first generation student success. November 8th, around November 8th around the country is first generation college celebration day. And this past week, the 6th, the 10th was today was the first gen week at GB. A little over half of UWGB's total enrollment. And I know I was reading this before, so it's 10,000 students total, but about half of that is first generation. The chancellor has identified UWGB as an access institution, meaning the school prides itself on its accessibility to all students. UWGB provides an array of first gen services to students to help them navigate college and be successful both academically and in their future careers. So how is this a visual multimedia story? There are many examples of UWGB's commitment to first generation students around campus, such as flyers advertising first gen services and stickers for first gen students. So like those little round stickers that say proud first gen Phoenix or something like that. So there are examples of those, and those people like put in their windows and whatnot. And they're for first gen students to use and take pride in being the first in their family to go to college. Because a first generation student is the first person in their family to go to college, but I'm sure everyone knows that. We can also have photos of events from first gen week, such as the first gen awards dinner on November 8th and the financial wellness fair on November 9th. We can also showcase individual first gen students who are featured in the story, so like people we'll interview. So for our sources so far, we have the Dean Aaron. Then we have the first year experience manager and coordinator for first generation and student success, Jackie Connell or Connell, however you say that. Then we're going to interview a few first gen students, and this number will probably grow as we write the story. First is Pedro Gonzalez Paldilla, who is I believe Lauren knows him. I think he works in the union. And then Val Tavares those are our two so far, but again, we'll grow that number as we interview, and then we'll possibly talk to some more faculty or staff. Oh, and then also the Multicultural Resource Center, someone from there we'll probably talk to, because a lot of first generation students use the Multicultural Resource Center. And then for our angles, the story can explore what sets GB apart as an access and first gen institution, specifically how to achieve the first gen forward designation. We can convey the different resources available to first gen students, as well as highlight their experiences at the college. We can discuss barriers for first gen students achieving higher education, and analyze statistics about first gen trends. Again, about how we can use sound and pictures. We can use we can have pictures of the various examples around campus, and also the events of the past week. And then also we can have photos of our student interviewees and our other interviewees as well. And then timing considerations, like first gen week is already passed, so any coverage would just be recapping that. For our second pitch, we have First Nations and UWGB. November is Native American Heritage Month, making the story timely. UWGB is built on land that formerly belonged to the First Nations peoples of Wisconsin, and its land acknowledgement is permanently featured throughout at university events, and was developed in 2018. Recognitions of the First Nations tribes of Wisconsin is an important part of the university's mission and commitment to inclusion and diversity. First Nations Studies is a unique program offered by the university with many courses taught by professors who are First Nation, who themselves are members of First Nations tribes. We can discuss the experience of First Nations students as well as the resources available to them. So as for being a visual multimedia story, we can have pictures from First Nations studies classes provided by the university. We can show other examples of recognition of the First Nations around campus. There will be a harvest feast on November 17th, which we can get photos of, and it's part of the UWG recognizing Native American History Month. For our sources, we have J. Pete Leary, who is one of the First Nations studies professors, Jay Kazak Hoffman, who is a UWGB First Nations student, Grace Bedell, who is a First Nations studies major, David Turney, who is an oral traditional elder scholar in residence at GB. We can try to interview someone from the Intertribal Student Council, which is a student org on campus for First Nations students. And then I'm going to butcher that name. So this person, she is the First Nations Student Success Coordinator, Crystal. And hang on. Okay. Then we can explore the history of between the First Nations and UWGB and the land acknowledgement. Why is it important for UWGB to acknowledge the First Nations people and all the history of the land the university is built on? We can discuss the First Nations students' experience as well as gain insight from a professor and an elder into the importance of the major. UWGB also offers Oneida language classes as part of the Oneida language project to revitalize the language since the 1970s. And then, like we were discussing before, there are a lot of examples around campus of recognition of the First Nations people. There are First Nation studies classes. There is a star quilt with the Phoenix logo on it. I don't know where it is, but it exists. And then there's also First Nations flags over in the Union we can photograph. We can have the land acknowledgement, and there's a link to the land acknowledgement video that we can include in the story. And then we can also have pictures of the Harvest Feast and then pictures of our interviewees, and then the Harvest Feast is on November 17th.
All right, thank you so much. Great pitch. First generation education, which can symbolize, we can characterize our UWGB. And second one is First Nations, Native Americans, and UWGB. So just the one thing that I want to mention about the first generation education is that even though the event is past, you can just briefly recap. But yeah, the main idea should be the first generation more. Not the main angle should not be. It may not be a first generation week itself, but we can broadly what happened for at UWGB. How many are there? Some numbers and what they are experiencing GB and what can be improved. So much more in depth. That's my yeah. All right.
Yeah, and that was kind of our intention. I know I kind of phrased it in a certain way, but yeah, the events would just be more like here's an example of something that we do. So
all right. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, except Michael. Michael will give the feedback last moment, and others. Thoughts, please.
I'm just curious, was there any, like, along with the award, was there any like monetary value or anything associated with the receiving of the award, or was it just hey, you did a good job from whoever?
Yeah, I think I forget who designates the first gen forward stuff. We'd have to look that up. I don't think there was necessarily monetary value to it. But like it's like there's an article on the UW system about it. But no, I don't think there was any monetary value to it.
I really love the second story. with the whole land acknowledgement because I think that's really, really awesome that UWGB does it, especially since there are so many places that don't do that. Like I know my hometown was built on a huge Indian burial ground and it's like not acknowledged at all, which really sucks. So I really, really love that we do this and really provide the resources to show people, hey, this is how this happened. This is, you know, the people that you can talk to learn more about this. So I really love this second story.
Don't use that word, S word. Don't use. Anyway, okay. Other?
I'm with Sam.
Yeah.
I really like both of these.
Yes.
But I am definitely on board for the second one. I do think it's important that it's talked about, and you know what Sam was saying too about the land acknowledgement. Not that every university, you know, discusses that. Not to say that the other story isn't important. It is just as important, but I am definitely on board for the second one.
I mean, too, we could easily like wrap the first gen into the First Nations because I'm sure there are a lot of First Nation students who are also first gen students.
Oh, yes, true. Others? Michael, can you share your thoughts?
Absolutely. So I do like both of them. On the first one, I think on the first generation story, how does it, I know that there was a news release on the UW system website regarding this, but I didn't really read through it a lot. Is UW Green Bay if UW Green Bay has half of its students as a first generation student, how does that compare with the overall average of the other 12 four-year campuses? I think that if you had some perspective on that, maybe like if UW Green Bay has the largest enrollment in the state of first generation students, I think that would make the story more significant, or whatever the number is, it would put a good perspective on why this is a good news story. And so I think that for that, I would just like to have a little bit more perspective on that. On the First Nation story, I do like that a lot. It is timely, and I think yeah, I think I'd like you to check with the, you know, there's the Oneida Indian tribe actually had governance over a lot of the land in Green Bay, you know, prior to the United States forming. And so I'm wondering if the Oneida Indian tribe also, you know, as part of their land, was that the university's land that the Oneida tribe had, or was it a different tribe that oversaw that land? I think that you can be probably a little more specific, if it's possible, to get a little bit more perspective on which tribe actually owned the land, how UW Green Bay managed to get that land. I think that's the history of that might be pretty neat to take a look at. So I'll leave it up to you guys on which story you choose, but I think either one, or either one is good.
Yeah, either one. And by focusing on First Nation, yeah, again, a lot of students are first generation among them. So yeah.
I want to say I think one of your questions about the first gen story, Michael. I was looking at, I think GB is the first school in the UW system to get that designation.
Okay.
And then for the First Nations in the land acknowledgement, it's the Ho-Chunk and Menominee tribes that the land acknowledgement acknowledges as the people who, or the tribes that resided on the land that the university's on. So I think, yeah, those two. Like I would think Oneida too, but apparently it's not.
Well, that's interesting. So maybe there's a way to get some comment from those, Ho Chunk has a big presence throughout the state with a couple of casinos. And of course, Menominee also. So I think, I don't know, it might be worth it to check with them to see what they think about that. And then as far as the first gen thing, if there's someone who on the panel who decided that UW Green Bay was going to be the one, it would be neat to try to get the perspective from someone on that board. How did they arrive at out of all the universities in, all the 13 universities in the state system, why Green Bay? Was it the fact that it is the highest enrollment in the state? I still think there might be a little bit to pursue in terms of putting a perspective on it. But as I said, both stories are really good.
I definitely agree. Okay. All right. Can I briefly stop sharing and can we vote? Okay. First generation study. First generation at UWGB. Raise your hand. Okay, Will, Jack. First, and Jared, 3. First Nation. Okay. Yeah, confirmed. First Nation. And yeah, First Nation. Thank you. Yeah, you can, you don't need to raise your hand anymore. Yeah, First Nation study. And yeah, if you briefly mention about first, some of them are first generation also, that would be also good. Yeah. All right. So next, I'm gonna go to, next is, I'm gonna go to, is it okay, Danielle?
Yeah, that works.
All right. Can you start?
I think Sarah's gonna take the first one.
Yeah, I'll take the first one. So our first story is the recent partnership between Capital Credit Union and UWGB. So the athletics department and Capital Credit Union recently announced a multi-year partnership, and they're kind of already a part of GB, and it's just making its way to the athletic side. But the merger will have an impact on Phoenix athletes. And then an opportunity that will take place is financial literacy education provided for student athletes and other students on campus. Capital Credit Union is displayed on Carroll's Court and Crest Event Center. And the importance of this story is to bring awareness to the partnership and just looking into what it does for both Capital Credit Union and UWGB in any negative ways, if there are any, but mostly the positive way that this is going to impact campus. So this is a visual multimedia story because there are a ton of pictures that are accessible, especially on my end. I work at Capital Credit Union, so I'm able to access pictures from the official announcement, and we have a lot of footage from that. So that's a really good thing to have. And then also sources that we would be talking to the chancellor, the athletics director, so Josh Moon, and then some other people there would be Sean Daniels and Jay, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But then I can also get us in touch with the chief marketing officer at Capital Credit Union and the CEO. So that would be really good to get statements from them. So then the angle would be to explain how being a partner with Capital Credit Union is a good thing for the university and kind of what it's going to bring to both sides of it. And then again, sound and pictures, that's going to be showing different things from that announcement. We could have, pictures of Capital Credit Union logo on like GB's campus and all of that type of thing. And then timing considerations is just getting interviews with the people at Capital Credit Union. There's a lot of different stuff going on at Capital right now that might make it a little more difficult with their time, but it would just be basically getting them. And then I can't see the pitch anymore. There we go. But yeah, that other consideration there is the fact that I do work there, so I'm able to access certain resources that might make for a better story. And then Daniel, I'll let you do the second pitch here.
Yep. All right. So that was Capital Credit Union. Next, we're going to be talking about the career closet slash the career services that we would talk about. So it's to get things started. Need professional attire when you graduate, have an interview, presentation, or for work. The career closet is right on campus and has all the business attire you could want. Career Services is on the UWGB campus, offers a campus closet centered around business attire for students to pick for free for their careers. Each semester, each student at the university is allowed up to 5 items for the closet. Unfortunately, the career closet has seen a lack in students participating in picking up business attire. Each student and the students are not benefiting from these free campus services. And to go along with that, that also includes resume, cover letter help, professional headshots, and all that stuff too. This would be a visual multimedia story because we can create awareness of the career closet and what is provided through the services through photos. Photos and interviews, not much really videos, unless we got like a video of someone in a mock like interview or something like that. The sources would be, can you scroll down? Thank you. It'd be Maddie Jones. She's the student worker at the front desk there. Kay Voss, she's a career service director. Sandra Quatso, she's a senior. She's gone to the career closet. And on top of that, we would have to try to find like an underclassman that has not been to the career closet or has been to the career closet. And we want someone also that would be like beneficial that talks about like not being there or not really hearing about it, because I guess it's more of like a publicity problem too with the career services. For the story, some angles that approach we would to address with the career closet and what services they provide. Again, the cover letter and stuff like that. Analyze how the students use their career services and the benefits that come along with going to the career closet. And career services, another angle is to understand the lack of students using their resource and what career services does to recruit more students. So like the social media aspect as well. Again, we would use pictures from the career closet because they have like a little room to address what the career closet is, and then also like the career services desk from outside, kind of stuff like that. Analyze how many students oh, sorry, wrong one. But yeah, just get pictures, essentially what it's there. Time and considerations. If we did this, we would probably want to get some sort of graph as well. So I guess the timing and other special considerations would be just getting people to take the survey we would send out if we got the story, and along those lines.
All right, thank you. The first one, Capital Credit Union and UWGB and Career Closet. Okay. It seems that Sarah is working at Capital Credit Union, so Sarah has some connections, some more. Sarah can pursue more information. All right. First, please share your thoughts, everyone. Yeah.
So for the career closet, are you doing this to try to figure out why people aren't going to career closet, or are you trying to just give it more advertising?
It'd be just more talking about it in general. Again, it's not really special around the career closet. It's supposed to be more of a career services aspect as well, because they provide more services than just the career closet. Such as I kind of said earlier, the interviewing aspect, resume, cover letter, professional headshots, and then the career closet kind of goes along with that. So it's more of a branch off of, but it would be kind of centered around the career closet would, probably take up, I would definitely think about a fourth of the paper, fourth to a third. So that's why it's kind of career closet, but it'd be the slash career services.
Good.
Alien's gonna call you back.
Others?
Perhaps this is just me being cynical, but I think that the first pitch really smacks of like a PR thing, just because Sarah works with Capital already, and it's like Capital announcing a big sponsorship with the university. Like I worked in athletics last year, and like we picked up these kind of corporate partners all the time. So like perhaps I'm just reading into a set of coincidences, but it really does look like there would be a conflict of interest in that story.
If I may just add on to it to go off of that, the only reason why I would kind of disagree with that is because Sarah would be able to connect us better with that. And it wouldn't just bring light on the UWGB athletics, but it would also bring light onto UWGB as well, because we've been partnered with Capital Credit Union for you know, 20 plus years now, I would say, from the article. And it just brings I understand, like you're saying, because Sarah works there, I understand that aspect, but I think it'd be a lot more accessible to get in contact with some of the higher ups at such as the CEO, and Sarah would be able to connect better with that.
And kind of going off of that, the story itself would be definitely focusing more on the UWGB, like the campus aspect, how it actually impacts the students, more so than the credit union. So yeah, again, I understand where you're coming from, Will, but that's kind of not the focus of the story, or at least it's not intended to be.
Yeah, I mean I guess that's a good answer. Like I would just be interested in like how does this partnership like concretely help students be besides like just slapping more logos on places around campus? Because like last year, like we picked up like a pizza sponsor for athletics, right? And like it was kind of cool. It's like, oh, like we free pizzas show up in the break room occasionally in the athletics office, but there's no like defined quality of life impact for students. So I guess that would what I would be interested in seeing out of this piece.
Yeah, again,
And
go ahead, Sarah.
yeah, so being on the capital side of that as well, I have more answers about that. So I kind of have more insight as well as to what Capital Credit Union is kind of thinking about getting involved with students, different marketing aspects that would actually benefit students rather than just, you know, advertise to them essentially. So it's a big part of that is also the financial education that would be offered. So basically that's like free courses for college students to take to get a better understanding of finances. And that's not even like, you know, they're not saying you have to join our credit union to be financially successful. It's supposed to be kind of like a resource for students that could be really beneficial, especially when people don't have that understanding of financial wellness.
Yeah.
So
Also,
I guess, yeah, that's just kind of my perspective on that. But
in addition to that, to support Sarah and Danielle, you mentioned some negative way also, right? Some negative expectation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we would have to go off of, you know, if there's any negatives, asking students too along, like, you
Yeah.
know, if they don't, I mean, the negative obviously would be like if they don't even use Capital Credit Union or if they even care with that. So that would be one, you know, I mean, I don't know if you want to do a negative or opportunity, but like and I understand probably, I guess, writing this may seem more as a PR stunt, which, you know, Will kind of set out. So it's not really supposed to be along like the lines of that. It's just getting down to, I guess, what the facts are of, you know, the merger, them being on campus now on the athletic side, just getting the
just
overall
kind of like what it means for students, basically.
And Austin.
So one negative would be, how does this impact? Because UW Credit Union also has like their little like pop-up thing in the union. Like could that be like a little bit of like a, I don't know, issue with them? As that could be maybe one of your negative angles, whatnot.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. And Michael.
Of the two, I think I'm really interested in the career closet one. It you know, I don't think it's a on the career closet one, I don't think it's a PR thing. I think it's very interesting that maybe that not many students are actually using it. And I wish when I was in school that I had someplace to go for a suit and tie so I could apply for the jobs that I was interested in. That didn't actually happen. So of the two, I think the career closet one has a lot of sources. You know, the students would be interested. You've got plenty of students to talk to about it. It's a source on campus that helps students out directly. And I really like that story angle. My only question on that one would be who finances all this? You know, what's the budget? Where does the money come from out of the university budget, or are there donations? I know that there are stores in Green Bay that there's one on Main Street on the east side that caters to women's dress clothes. So women are looking for a job, but they don't have the right type of clothes. They can go to a store and get that. So of the two, that's the one I would choose. I think on the first one, I know that working for Capital Credit Union gets you an insider view of the story, and then you might be able to get sources better that way. But boy, I think whoever raised the point of the ethics problem there, I think that is an ethical problem. I wouldn't want I wouldn't want a Packer player to be writing about a story on the Packers. And similarly, I don't think I'd want a worker for someone who's getting paid by the credit union.
I
to
mean,
be writing.
if it makes a difference, I am an intern.
Do you get paid? Is that a paid?
Well, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't take an unpaid internship.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I still think, and I, it's just an ethical thing. I mean, it's up to you guys to determine that, but I would say that if Sarah wasn't involved in the story, it would be a pretty decent story. And if Sarah would get, you would get help from the others on writing the story to get the sources that you need, then maybe that would be okay. But I still think, I don't know, I guess it raises some red flags to me as a reader to say, oh, well, writing about Capital Credit Union. Oh, by the way, one of the students writing it works at Capital Credit Union. So do I really, that would, I guess for me, that would bother me a little bit. So, so that's why I'm picking the second of the two. I really do think that it's more related to the students. On the first one, outside of the fact of the ethical problem, I wonder if the story could be broadened maybe to say, well, you've got this Capital Credit Union donation. How many other businesses are involved in getting sponsorships on campus? And maybe that might take a little bit of the edge off of the conflict of interests of the Capital Credit Union. That might be one idea to try to get around it. I don't know. You'd have to decide that.
Oh, very
It's not criticism of you working there. That's, I'm sure that, an internship there is really good. And I know that we did a seminar at the Daily Cardinal in Madison. We started out the semester with a woman from the credit union explaining how to manage your finances for the year, and the students really enjoyed that presentation. So I know that those classes that the Capital Credit Union is going to be offering there, the free classes on how to do your finances, will be very valuable to students. So I just think that the ethical thing there might be a problem.
Okay. So, all right. As Michael suggested, if you focus on multiple other donor sponsorship around the campus, this could a little bit alleviate this kind of conflict of interest issue. And so first and second, if you focus more on negative aspect, some negative aspects, expectation, that could also balance. That's my opinion, but that was my opinion. And also in our Daniel is taking my advanced reporting, right? Daniel, Colin are taking my advanced reporting, and Campus Closet is choose for the second phase of investigative report already. So if I remember correctly, Daniel, you said that you want to write Capital Credit Union for the first estate with Sarah and Greg, right?
And it's whatever the vote is, it doesn't matter. I could care less.
Okay, Sarah, is it okay?
Yeah, I mean, if there's going to be an ethical problem, then it's whatever.
Okay. So I think right now it's time to vote first. Yeah. Okay. Campus Closet, no, Capital Credit Union first. Capital Credit Union. Yeah, I'm voting for the Capital Credit Union. Oh, 5. Okay. 5. Okay. Yeah, please, yeah. And what's that one? Campus Closet and Career Service. Oh, 5 to 6. Pretty close. So, okay, you can raise it down. I wish that my intention is that, my opinion is that I wish the team of Daniel, Morgan, Sarah, and Greg will write Capital Credit Union or a university sponsorship story for the diversity of the story. This kind of financial sponsorship was rarely covered in the first estate. It's worthwhile to dig and try if I think if we can avoid. I believe I know Sarah pretty well. I think Sarah is a quite trustworthy person to me. So yeah. So if you guys try to avoid this kind of conflict of interest, and not only for the Capital Credit Union but also for other sponsorship more, I think I want you to write this story. That's my opinion. Okay, Sarah and Greg, is it okay for you?
Name's Daniel, but yeah,
Oh,
we'll
sorry,
talk.
sorry.
We'll
Yeah,
go
Daniel.
about it. We'll talk about it. We'll let you
Got it.
know what story we want to do.
Okay.
So we'll talk about it.
Okay, Michael, everyone, I have an opinion. Daniel, Sarah, Morgan, and I don't know Morgan. I did not get an email from Morgan for not being here. Morgan and Greg. Greg is in Auckland right now. Okay. Please send the email to me until next Monday, midnight. Your decision. Make
Yeah,
sense?
sounds good. Yeah, we'll
Sounds
talk
good. We
about
can
it.
do that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. But one thing, the focus should not be Capital Credit Union, university sponsorship. Okay.
Aye.
I do just want to make a comment that the Capital Credit Union thing isn't so much a sponsorship as it is a partnership. So I don't know if
Partnership,
that
oh.
would change anything.
Okay.
So it's
Other-
not solely like Capital Credit Union giving GB money. It's like it's a partnership.
Partnership. Okay. Partnership. Okay, good. Others, do you agree with this idea? Asking them to decide and choose them their story until Monday? Yeah, again, but I'm still leaning toward this kind of Capital Credit Union story for me. Yeah, yeah, a little bit division between, and also this is clearly divided by 2. Michael, is it okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. That means, okay, I'm gonna randomly choose also. Next group is Will. Okay. Is it correct? Will?
Yeah, Bailey, do you want to talk about the first pitch?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
bye. Okay,
first-
yeah, Bailey, yeah.
So the first pitch is Foods from Around the World at UWGB. Good Times Programming is holding an event on December 7th to help introduce other students to different cultures and help broaden their horizons by introducing and allowing them to eat food from other cultures from around the world. This could intrigue students to learn more about other cultures and other places in the world and possibly even encourage them to study abroad if they want. We can take pictures of the food and the students eating the food and maybe even get some B-roll of the food being prepared if it hasn't already been made beforehand. The people that we could contact to ask questions is Celcy Jones, who is the Cultures and Communities member of the Good Times Programming, Adam Navanti, who is the supervisor of Good Times Programming. We could just contact Good Times Programming as a whole, get everyone who works there opinion on it, maybe ask why they all decided to do this event. We could also talk to students at the event and see why they wanted to go to the event and people serving the food as well. For angles, we could review the food and perhaps get a history on it and its origin and how it's important to the culture it came from. And we could also talk to the students to get their thoughts on the event and how they like the food, possibly how the and the event means to them. We could also talk to the people who are serving the food and ask their story, connecting them to the food and how they feel sharing their culture with the students at UW Green Bay. And like I said, for pictures and sound, we could get pictures of the food and students enjoying the food and showing off the event altogether. And for timing considerations, this does take place on Thursday, December 7th from 11 to 1 p.m. So there is a chance that some members of the group may be in class, which would bar them from attending the event.
Yeah, and then our second pitch is about the Richter Museum. And so our group is the Arts and Entertainment Group, and a lot of people know that we have a theater department. We have a big, beautiful performing arts center, but not a lot of people know that we have a museum on campus. The Richter Museum is a natural history museum named after Carl Richter, who is a figure in the local nature scene. It's in the concourse level of MAC, kind of over by the advanced video production room, if any of you have ever been there. It's only available to view by appointment, so it's not very accessible to students that are outside some of the natural sciences programs. But we think that this really is a good hidden resource on campus. As for the multimedia aspects of it, this is a museum that has like natural history dioramas, and those are usually presented pretty well. We think they would make for pretty good photographs. And then also, if we would be able to get into the museum for coverage of the story, we could do some video in the museum as well, do like a experiential journalism type of deal there. As for our interview sources, Dr. Daniel Meinhardt is the museum coordinator. As far as we know, he is the only faculty member actively involved in the curation and upkeep of the museum at this point in time. So our other sources would consist of number one, people who have been to the museum and their thoughts on it. And number two, people who have not been to the museum and what they think it would be. And then also, did they know it exists? All those other things. So our main angle would pretty much be how students don't know that this is a thing, but how more students should know that this is a thing.
All right. First, food around the world at UWGB. And second, Richter Museum. In addition to first pitch, this is a one-day event, right? Yeah. Yeah, because the goal of this class, this Fourth Estate investigative report, is to dig deeper, much more in depth. So, yeah, Daniel, yeah, okay, I understand. But in my opinion, you may also talk about our food option first, our campus dining food option first. And second, there are lack of experience in the globalized global food that can be also related to diversity issue. So yeah, we may focus on even on UWGB campus and around the Brown County. There are not so much Asian restaurant, not so much Indian restaurant probably. Yeah. Dig deeper. Yeah. Okay, Daniel, what is your opinion?
Yeah, I do like what you just talked about the food thing and whatnot, but I think personally for me anyways, the second story about the museum here and I believe they said MAC. I think that kind of brings like, interest to me anyways, just because you don't really hear about the museum that we have, especially in MAC or in museum here on campus at all. And I don't know, just thinking about it, again, the food's still a good story, but again, I'm just thinking like, oh man, the museum no one's ever heard about. I think you could kind of go dig deep of like what is it, like what's it about, and then you could talk about like what have they done to publicize it and whatnot, but that's just personally my opinion.
Good.
Yeah, and relating to the food, the amount of food options on campus has really gone down a lot since the teaching kitchens went away, so that is something we can talk about.
Okay, all right, all right. Today is not Friday the 13th. Okay, Grace and Mason. Mason first.
Yeah, I know it was like just announced yesterday, but did you look into how the cutting of the environmental science major and the theater major might affect the museum?
I don't think the cutting of the theater major would impact it at all because, as far as we know, this is wholly contained within environmental sciences. And while we can definitely look into that, I don't think that it would be a huge problem because it's like just the environmental planning and policy major. And there are still a lot of majors left within environmental sciences that hopefully, I mean, at the bare minimum, that the museum would stay open with some majors left in the program. But that would probably be a good interview question.
All right, and Grace.
I would say I'm on board for the second one. I honestly did not know that this little museum that we have existed until probably last year, and I'm a senior, and it's been hiding away in Mac this entire time.
And
So I
Grace,
think
you
it's
will graduate, right?
yeah, I'm graduating in December.
Yes.
I think it's important to talk about it because again, it's something that not a lot of students are aware about. And obviously with the work they do, there's some impact somewhere. And like Professor Yu tells us problem solution. So why don't students know about this existing and why isn't there more word of mouth about it and people and students coming to see it? Because like I never see students, I mean, I'm in Mac fairly often, but I never see students go that way ever. And it's tucked away in such a weird little corner too. But yeah, I'm definitely on board. I think that would be a really interesting piece to discuss.
Grace, thank you for applying my my material to this. Oh yeah. All right. That leads to the question to Michael. Michael, how do you solve? How do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think both are pretty decent. The food one is, I know that you said that there might be some kids or some students working on the story who are in class at that time of the actual event. So I would hope that someone on the story would actually be at the event. And boy, if you can have an excuse to get out of a class, I'd say that would be a good one. So so anyway, it'd be nice to actually get a reporter actually at the event. And then if you do decide to do that one, can you get a photographer for still photos and maybe even video to follow a couple of students around? So when they taste something from a different culture, could you get their reaction in a photograph or a video? I think that would be kind of fun. And I do like the fact that, as Joseph said, that even around Green Bay and Brown County, the chances of you finding an Indian restaurant or a Thai restaurant are kind of small right now. So maybe these food samplings are an example of how students can try to get more choices around the area. On the other one, yeah, I didn't, well, I've not been on campus in a while. I didn't know that there was a Richter Museum in the MAC. And so I do think that that's a pretty cool story. Let people know about it. So either of those stories would be fine with me. The one, I was just looking up this news release that was released yesterday. This has nothing to do with these two suggested story ideas. But boy, if anyone could jump on the on UW Green Bay, thinking that 3 majors they might be eliminating, that's like a breaking news story, and that could be a pretty decent investigative piece in and of itself. But I know that you're already committed to these, so if I would say that if in your story pitches this afternoon, if anyone wanted to drop one of those and get on the breaking news, that would be fine with me. But again, I know you've done a lot of research already on your 2-story ideas. That'll be up to you.
Yeah, we have, yeah. One quick notice is that, I'm also, most of you took, Convoys media workshop, right? Some short form news story and any op-ed and any, in-depth, knowledgeable story. And, Michael, I had a chance to talk with, Katie and Phil and our administrator, and, they said that, yeah, Convoys will be eventually merged with First Estate. So some already here, Will, Samantha, and Jack, Jared. Oh, where is Jared? Oh, yeah, okay. Jared are in the Convoys. They can also write this kind of breaking news story, probably about, and we can also post at the First Estate and Convoys together. Yeah. Okay. So it's time to vote first. Food event, worldwide food event. You can vote both. Okay, I'm gonna vote both. Okay, Austin and Guru. And yeah, Richard Museum. I'm gonna also vote. Yeah, okay. Very clear. Richard Museum. Great participatory journalism. And that leads to another further question. That means, Will, who are there? Will, Ty, and Bailey and Samantha are there. Who has DSLR? I think Bailey has DSLR, right? Camera. No?
Yeah, I have a camera.
Yeah. Please use DSLR to take photo, okay? Of the
And I'm
Richard
also in an independent study with Justin, so I can get a camera from campus too.
Yes. Very great. Yeah. Even though it could be promotional story, this is a good promotional for sure. The problem is the students did not know about it, and our UWGB are devoted to our environmental science a lot. So yeah. And that's good. This story will be really interesting. And that leads to another question to Will. Will, I got your email early in the morning, and today the cross-country team also like this story? Did you get anything?
Yeah, they posted it on their Instagram story before their big regional meet today.
Okay, I also posted your story at the First Estate. You agreed it, right? You like it, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please promote. All right. That means that these two. Okay. So we will go really fast. Yeah. So that leads to. Okay. Next group is my guys. Jared and Zach and Dylan. Yeah, Jared, especially Jared. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'll take the first one.
Okay.
So we're just kind of looking at like the safety measures on campus because over the years there have been mentions of students being anxious over their safety around campus and in their dorms. Specifically, those who live on the first floor have experienced discomfort with other students and strangers being able to look into their windows. With the windows being easy to move, there's the risk of stalkers and people entering the room through the window can be high. And as we know, there have been instances on campus with crimes committed, specifically on the trails. Visuals story because we'll be asking police for quotes, and then we'll take pictures of the rooms, and then we'll have a lot of quotes from students who just feel, I wouldn't say unsafe, but just uncomfortable. And then for sources, we have students on campus who live specifically on the first floor, on campus police, and then housing. And then for our angles, some students feel somewhat uncomfortable living on the first floor with the risk of stalkers. And like I said, there have been previous crimes committed that keep them kind of on edge. And then this story will take a look at the current security of campus and then how they could possibly be improved. We can also take pictures of the windows and the screens to show how easily they can come in and out. And then there's no real time considerations for the story, because safety is always important, but with it getting darker earlier, obviously more, I would say, crimes and more instances tend to occur at night. So, and then Dylan, if you want to take the next
right.
one.
It seems the first story is suggested by Jared, right? No? No, Jared?
Yeah, it actually was. It actually was.
Okay, because of me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, next.
So for the second idea we had is new beginnings for the UWGB men's basketball program. After 3 straight seasons of having a struggling basketball program, UWGB looks to have a bright future ahead within the program with some new faces. It's a visual multimedia story because we're going to take quotes from the sources as well as pictures of the basketball team just to show what they're all about in the program. And then sources, the new head coach, Sundance Wicks, if he is available, newer UWGB men's basketball players, Josh Moon, the athletic director, and other coaches on the coaching staff. And then for angles and approaches, the men's basketball team is looking to compete after having a tough last 3 seasons with a lot of new faces on the team. And the story shows that the UWGB men's basketball team is ready to get rid of the struggles of the past and move on to a brighter future. And we will use sound and pictures to show the team playing well as the new faces on the team. Timing considerations, none really. And then other special considerations is some people might be harder to talk to because of the team schedule and when they also will be available.
Okay. Right now our UWGB men's basketball record is 1-1, right? And I also know our student manager, Tyler Olson, he's in my class. I can ask help for the interview for sure. And yeah, and it's your job. It's everyone's job. It's your job to contact them. We are writing for our school media, school newspaper. So yeah, it's worthwhile to try. Even Greg Bintz can help you to accommodate. And I may also politely ask to Joshi Moon. And yeah, and I know that Austin already covered some story about our content coach weeks, right? Austin, you met, right?
Yeah, no, I talked to Josh Moon, and yeah, no, I also was able to talk to Coach Wicks, and yeah, no, they're pretty accessible.
Yeah, he's a pretty nice guy. Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, but campus safety measure is really investigative piece, and I really like this idea. And Jared, which floor are you living in?
I'm in the 2nd floor.
Oh my God. Okay, I see. It doesn't matter. Okay, all right. So everyone's thoughts, please. Grace.
I am 100% on board for the first idea. I'm really glad that you guys brought this up because I don't know if you guys explicitly live on campus. I've been living on campus like the entire time that I've been here, and there have been some crazy things that have happened.
Oh my God.
I personally haven't felt safe on campus, but I specifically choose not to be on the 1st floor for that reason. But considering all the crazy things that have happened on campus in the last couple years, I do think this is an important story to tell. My only not worry, but the fact that housing is listed on there. I know that in advanced reporting, I know Daniel and Morgan were working on a piece and it was extremely hard to get housing to even talk to them. I would be worried about that as well, that housing might not want to talk, but you know, you got to push and you got to shove if you want answers. But I really think you should cover this one. I think it's extremely important.
If I may just butt in real quick to go along, because Chris just mentioned me. I would instead of you can try Kelly Thacker for the housing director. She's probably gonna wait another month before she gets back to you, and it'll be really bad. But that's just me. You can push and try, but I would go to University Police rather than housing because University Police really deals with that more. Because housing will just say that it's fine here on campus. In reality, it might not. And also, you can bring up the student safe walk program that they have. You could because housing kind of does that, or you can ask maybe housing just about the safe walk program, more details about that rather than students like just feeling unsafe, because then it'll make it seem like it's a bad look on to live on campus, which housing will not respond to.
Everyone, big applause to Daniel. Great point. Yeah. And Bailey. Yeah, Bailey was first. Yeah. Bailey, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, I really like the first idea too. I actually live on the first floor. I always have my curtains closed and my windows shut, because and locked because one of my roommates have actually been having an issue where she'll come home and her window's open. She did not leave it open. And the stuff on campus is crazy, like was mentioned before. My mom's always talking about this woman who disappeared years ago off of campus and was never found. My roommate talked about the night that body was found, how her friends were on the trails and they saw like a teepee built in front of like the chapel, and how they went the next day and they saw like a stake still there and stuff. Like there's a bunch of crazy stuff, and I think talking about campus safety would be really big, because I think I also heard they removed the phones like that are along like the walkways on campus that you can call if you feel unsafe, because they weren't being used enough and stuff like that. So I think this is a really good thing to cover.
And
kind of bouncing off of that, that's kind of what I was going to mention, is one of the reasons that I chose Green Bay was because they had those safety posts. And then shortly after I started, they took those away. And I mean, for someone walking, from place to place at night, I mean, obviously, like, you don't want someone to have to use them. So yeah, I mean, I understand they said that people weren't using them, but that's still going to probably, at least people then have the option to use them. So I think that's definitely something to mention in that story too. Just like safety measures and kind of what's being done, what has been done, and maybe why things aren't being done anymore.
And Grace.
I agree with Sarah. Like, I mean, my reasons for coming here are different, but with the phone thing too, I think I remember seeing an article about people's concerns being raised about that. But the reason why they took them away is, I guess, obviously they weren't being used, which is a good thing. It's a very good thing that they were not being used, but at the same time, it's kind of ridiculous to take them away, because yeah, in this day and age everybody has a cell phone, but there are some families and some students who don't. So I think highlighting that in this piece, but then also adding on to what Bailey was saying about like what 2 years ago, year ago now, about that body being found. There have been other weird things. Like what was it, my sophomore year, I lived in one of the trads, so the traditional apartments, and my trad jutted out to the Arboretum Trail. And then the GB alert was sent out saying, "Hey guys, there's a guy on the trail with a gun. Be careful, stay away from your windows and all that." And my trad juts out to the trail. So that was terrifying. But and honestly, I wanted to add to that. I didn't know. That's really scary, Bailey. I didn't even know that had been happening at all. But yeah, I'll stop.
Okay. Okay, it seems a lot of we have something to talk. And Michael.
Well, and I agree with Grace and Daniel and Sarah and Bailey. The first one is definitely the one you should work on. But if the second one is chosen, I'm sort of looking, I'm doing some research here on it. It looks like the basketball team got 3 transfer students. I think they got it through the transfer portal. And I'm sort of I'd be interested in seeing how much the new coach relied on the transfer portal to get these 3 new transfers and how they're gonna, how that's going to improve the team. So the transfer portal's fairly new. Not sure if the previous coach used it at all or whether there was even time for him to use it. But that might be one angle to pursue. On the first one with safety on campus, obviously that's a pretty good story. I think when you interview students who live in those apartments, I would definitely name the student, but I wouldn't say which apartment they're in. Because you don't want to, you don't want to give too much of a description of what floor they're, well, you might want to say what floor they're on, but I wouldn't say they're in the triads or in some other, I wouldn't want to be specific as to what unit they're living in, just to keep them protected.
Just another thought on an angle for this too. I think it might be interesting also to just talk to some people who also commute and see what their thoughts on it might be. I myself am a commuter, and I, again, have had some issues with the safety on campus. So, I mean, just kind of getting both sides of that too might be interesting.
That's a
Yeah,
great.
I think our big thing was to like, it always takes like a tragic moment before people start talking about something that's actually serious like this. So I think that bringing attention to it before something happens would be like the best for everyone, and that's why we kind of just want to mention it now.
Also, wasn't there some sort of a story about not enough lights on the trails? I'm tending to
Yeah, I
think.
did hear something about that too. We have to do more research about it, but we'll add all these angles definitely.
Yeah.
I walked parking lot last night and it was pitch black on one of the trails. Like there was 0 lights on the trail from Mac to the overflow parking by the crest. So it definitely, like, 2 lights would have helped, and they just don't have any.
Oh my God, yeah, everyone knows Colin. Colin is huge and somewhat masculine. How Colin, yeah, if Colin fears at night, it's really fearful. Yeah. That's my
Yeah.
opinion.
And also another thing with the story is like, as we all know, Green Bay is kind of its own isolated community away from the city. So it's like it might be a little easier for, outsiders to come in and, do something they're not supposed to and like think they can get away with it, like we saw with the trail and the body last year or whatever that was. That's something to think about too.
Okay, Grace.
And I was gonna say too, the one thing that you could add, if it sounds like this one probably will get picked. I think I saw something that like in an email or a poster that they do like a campus safety walk every year. So UPO and I think housing or somebody, they walk around and be like, what parts of campus could be fixed, to improve safety features and stuff. I think if you can attend that or not pitch the idea in there, but include that in there and part of the story, I think that'd be really beneficial.
Also, I heard that there is a self-defense class. Yeah.
Yep, on Monday next week.
And also, yeah, 2 questions about the first story. Are there any protection measure, any protection system, such as a camera or any wall? No, not at all. Yeah, we
think
can
so.
also point out. Yeah, dark night. Yeah.
I think like the biggest issue is like the trails because they're so dark, there's no light. It's like when it gets dark, it's just unsafe. Nobody feels comfortable there. Obviously with the incident a few years ago, it's just that's the biggest thing. And like what Colin said with there's not many lights on campus, just a simple walk back to your car can be more uncomfortable than it needs to be.
And Austin.
There's only a few cameras in the buildings around here. I don't know if there's any in the parking lots, but there's only like 3 or 4 buildings that have cameras too.
Bouncing off of that, I would agree that there's definitely a lack of cameras on campus. I was hit and run in the parking lot and they didn't catch anything because there's a lack of cameras.
Yes.
And I was gonna say too with lighting security, the new parking lot that they expanded, what is it? It's like right next to Schaefer and I think Temp and everything. It's across the street from Roy and Robichaud and Hardin, I think, the one they expanded. Driving past that at night, it looks so dim. Like they took some lights out when they expanded. Yeah, the East Lot. I think even talking about that of like, okay, well, there's not enough lighting and security and stuff, but just wanted to pinpoint that too, because I don't know if any other students like or like, it's a concern, but
Yeah, bouncing off that a bit, I think also talking about how there are some classes that are like needed to graduate that happen late, like from 5 to 7:30. I have one of those. It starts when it's dark and it ends when it's dark. Walking to and from class now, and it's dark and it's very dim, it's really not fun, and I wish there was a different option to take the class earlier when it was still light out, so I wouldn't have to walk back to my dorm in the dark. It just leaves kind of a unsafe option for some people.
Yeah, so that raises the point of maybe in the story, maybe in a little box at the end of the story, you could mention what resources do you have on campus to solve this problem? There's someone mentioned that you can get someone to walk with you back to your class. And then what number do you dial if there's an emergency on campus besides 911? Is there a better number to call? And what the campus police say about all that? And as far as lack of cameras on campus, that's a huge thing. And if they did insert more cameras, that would have an impact on the campus police department because someone would have to monitor them. So there's definitely a cost angle to this as well. Cameras, more lighting. And this all in the face of the university facing a $6 million deficit. So, but you guys have great feedback on this story. It's really good to weigh in on this. This is what a meeting like this is all about. So thank you for your feedback.
Okay. It seems that everyone want to listen to more about campus safety issue, right? So are there anyone who want to listen to more about UG men's basketball team? Okay. Team of Dylan, Jared, Jack, you can write both story. Okay, kidding. Okay. Oh, campus safety measure, but very important, listen, Jared, Jack, and Dylan. Already, I believe that what we talk right now can already make a story. Agree? I keep on record. I'm gonna post this video. Probably it takes some time to convert to the video and upload to the YouTube, but I'm sure that I'm gonna post this video on YouTube. You guys, team of Dylan, Jared, Jack, should watch this video again. Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of good feedback that we got, so we can definitely come back and listen to everyone's thoughts.
Yes. This exactly fits you exactly find the problem, and this should be a great investigative piece. Okay. Yeah, last question, very weird question. Who suggested this idea? Is it really Jared?
Yeah, it was me.
Okay.
Yeah, Jared had mentioned how one of his coworkers she lives on campus and she lives on the first floor, how she had felt uncomfortable. And I mean, I personally never have because I've never lived on the first floor, but I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. So it's nice to see all the how many people are actually concerned and how many, how much feedback we got. It's good to know.
All right. Thank you. Can we go to next sports group? All right. Confirmed. Oh, yes. And Mason, Caleb, and Austin.
Yeah, so our first story is going to be about UWGB women's basketball. They made it to, or they had the highest seed in the Horizon League last year, made it all the way to the championship game of the Horizon League tournament, and eventually lost to Cleveland State. So it's a story about how they basically are trying to bounce back this year and either, try to win it again, but this time also win the tournament, so therefore they can go to the NCAA tournament. So visuals, we said gameplay, interviews would all be good stuff. It would be the same thing we would have to do for the soccer story where we have to take our own photos and stuff. Some sources, I put the head coach, Kevin Borsef. I've been told he's pretty easy to reach. Fans would also be a good thing to reach out for. And then any player, I put Cassie Schultz because I went to high school with her and I know that she can give a pretty okay interview. So I put her down. But we can definitely reach out to other people on the roster. The angles and approaches are basically just make us look good, see, what changes that we're doing this year to try to beat Cleveland State, and why we do have a good shot at the title again this year. What sounds and pictures would you use to tell the story? Basically, we just want to make UWGB look good. We want to show that they could win the title again. Time considerations. Basically, the only timing consideration I really saw was we would have to look into when they're on like the roads. Therefore, you don't schedule an interview with them on the road, or else you would have to use Zoom. But then you also have you don't want them to be thinking about your interview when they should be thinking about the game. So there might be some issues there. Any other considerations I didn't really find. And then I'll hand it over to Austin.
So our second story is on the UWGB esports joining the NECC conference, which is a prominent esports collegiate conference. And now this kind of opens up the opportunity for UW Green Bay to compete against over 300 schools that are in this conference now. It holds timeliness as in this happened at the end of August, I want to say. And just kind of gives a story on how the esports have grown at UW Green Bay since its inception. I want to say was 2019, 2020-ish area. So fairly recently, there's been a lot of changes. This is a visual / multimedia story because we can get plenty of video and pictures of gameplay from UW Green Bay esports team, and maybe even some from other schools on articles and stuff, and then get some pictures of the esports lounge to allow readers to know what's going on. Some of our potential sources, Jonah Morales, he's part of the Valorant esports team. I'm pretty good friends with him, so that will be a pretty easy one. The head of the UWGB esports, or someone involved in the decision-making process to see how this came about. And then Jacob Van Ryn, who's the NECC commissioner. His name and contact information is plenty out there on all their press releases. It's if you want to learn more information, contact Jacob Van Ryn. So hopefully he's as easy to contact as it appears. So some of the angles and approaches, we'll talk about how it's adapted and evolved to fit into the NECC, see if they had to improve certain standards, add different types of teams, and add more games. And then go off that, kind of see what games the esports team is going to play in the NECC. So once again, how we'll use sound and pictures. We'll use sound and pictures, kind of tell a story, provide a visual aid to the reader to see what the esports lounge looks like. Just see some of the equipment involved. With timing considerations, there really aren't any, depending upon if a competitive season's coming up, we might give more information upon that specific one. And other than that, there really aren't any other special considerations.
All right. First, our women's basketball team beginning the season. Second, our esports team joining NECC conference. Thoughts, everyone? Josh.
Yeah, so actually I'll lower my head. Okay. I think the esports one is the more interesting of the two, just because I do feel like stories about the the athletics teams are kind of done to death, and I feel like the esports that's just I'm not a sports guy, so part of my lack of knowledge. But I do feel like the esports one, I really like the esports center. I think it's really neat and cool that we have that, and I think with it joining this conference is definitely something to highlight because it because it kind of ties into the university's kind of like, because the university is always trying to like improve and do new things. So I feel like, you know, kind of advancing into esports and having like an actual esports team is really cool. And I do think it's more of an emerging thing than just talking about, like, again, I'm sure I'm fine talking about like the athletics teams, don't get me wrong. It's just I feel like the esports thing is a bit more of a niche thing.
And that's why we kind of like picked this story too, because basketball. I mean, it's always pretty interesting. Basketball gets pushed pretty hard at Green Bay here, but yeah, no, that was a big reason why we wanted to do this story too. It's pretty exciting, and it's something that doesn't get talked about too much.
Well, and piggyback off that real quick. It also shows how good UWGB is at specifically women's sports. It could leak in a little bit that volleyball does really well. The only one we really can't mention is soccer because they haven't been doing well these past couple of years. But it really is an homage to how good Green Bay is at women's sports as well. I didn't really include that well in the description, but it can definitely leak over in other sports as well.
And Grace.
I was gonna say, like Josh, I honestly personally do not care about sports in general. But I think with the talking about the esports and them getting into a league, I feel like it's important to discuss because as like a running joke, I've heard people say that like, oh yeah, now Green Bay has an esports lounge, so it's every incentive for, you know, me to apply here because it's important to consider that every student has their own niche and what they like to do. Um, and now that we have esports, that could be the potential thing you could talk about too, is like, okay, with having esports, is that drawing more students into the university? And now that possibly they're going to be joining a conference, how will that impact? Will that impact campus too, like the enrollment numbers as well? Because I feel like that could be a big draw in to students too, because there's so many people who like video games.
And Guru.
I was just gonna say I love sports, but I feel like the athletic programs, the bigger athletic programs, get covered pretty extensively by like local news sources, and the beauty of having a student newspaper is that we get to cover the stuff that doesn't get covered by them. And so I think the esports angle of it is a better way to go because they're not going to get as much coverage as like the women's basketball team if they end up, you know, being as good as we expect them to be.
Josh.
And I just wanted to add to for the women's story, like at least the way you like kind of pitched it kind of made it seem more like have a puff kind of PR piece. And I say this as an actual marketer for the university. Like I work in the marketing, so like I'm all for like, oh yeah, the university's doing this, it's doing great. But in terms of like journalism, at least like again, you can definitely write it in a different way. Just I feel like the way you kind of pitched it kind of comes across as more just kind of a puff piece than anything. And again, I think the esports story is a bit more interesting and a bit more in depth because you can kind of like, oh, what led to having esports and why, like what led to it having getting into this conference. So I think that there's more of a story there. That's just my piece.
Oh my God, Jared.
Yeah, like kind of what Colin said. I think that the basketball teams, like I love sports too. I think they can be talked about like every year. Like as long as they're, you know, relevant and they're looking good and they have a chance to win it, you can always mention that. With the esports, I mean, they just joined a new conference. It's kind of like a fresh story where this hasn't really happened recently. So I think it's something also fresh that can't be talked about more than just every single year, like basketball can be.
All right, my last, yeah, Michael, do you have any thoughts?
Sure. I think the esports story is the better of the two, but for the women's basketball preview, I think they lost their first game, although it was to a team that was also ranked, is not in their conference, another team that was ranked pretty high. But I think that the discussion here is very good, and I agree with what people are saying here, that the esports thing is actually the better of the two stories, I think. And let me ask you this: doesn't right next to the newsroom in the media lab, isn't the gaming office there? The gaming classes held there?
I know there is a gaming place, gaming office, but I'm not sure whether they have a class. You can find it also. This can be a worse to be covered.
Yeah, because I thought that having the gaming, video gaming part of that media lab was kind of interesting, and I'm wondering if indeed the gaming lab is open and if students are using it, are any of the students who are on the E team actually developing video games themselves? Because I guess that's part of what the media lab was there for, is to get this, state-of-the-art video gaming class underway. So again, I'm not familiar with whether there's a class there or not, but I do know that there's the software and the technology in that office or in that room to get that done. But yeah, I definitely think the esports thing is the way to go. I'm not sure, it's very difficult to get a good picture, a still picture of someone playing a video game because they're just sitting at a computer. So is it possible that does the web page support video? Because it'd be neat to show an actual video game underway, or a contest, a game that's going on, so you could have a 10 or 15-second view of what they actually look like. If you can't use video, then maybe just some video of some of the games or some stills of one of the games that they're playing.
We have esports lounge, so I think this might get pictures at the esports lounge. They mentioned it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, but good suggestion. Yeah, still photo. And Grace.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't know if it'd be relevant, but for the esports, my brain was thinking there's two professors that have like a gaming class or something.
Yeah, find it.
I think Chris Williams and I think Professor Case.
Oh yeah, Chris Williams.
I was just thinking of their names because I know that they do stuff with gaming on campus, but I don't think it's related to esports. But it'd be worth maybe like seeing if they could, be a reference or a source, depending on what angle you decide to take on it. But
I believe like a live streaming class or like a component to like one of the English associated majors, there's like a live streaming component class. So I think that might be what you're talking about.
yeah, that's what I was referencing to, because I have a friend that does that, and then they hold game nights sometimes in the Phoenix Club. So that's what I was thinking at. Thank you. I couldn't think of the title.
Oh.
Yeah. No, these angles are absolutely phenomenal, and like don't get me wrong, we'll definitely like see kind of how the story goes. But primarily I think our focus to this one's going to be kind of keeping it the expansion of the esports team. I mean, say for example, if like a bunch of the players are in computer science and trying to develop their own video games, we could explore that a little bit further. But I think we're going to kind of try to stick to just keeping it more the esports team and the progression of this over the past 2 years. I'm pretty sure it's all the esports lounge has been around. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good angle. Yeah.
Great. So let me stop. Time to vote. Our women's basketball team. Esports. Everyone, it seems everyone. Okay. Esports. Got it?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh my God, time already passed a lot. We have 2 more pitch presentation. Okay. That leads to, and okay. Yeah, let's go really fast. Yeah, let's go really fast. And I already know this pitch. Okay.
Okay.
Grace and Colin, Grace and double G, Grace and Guru. Okay, let's start.
Okay, so our first idea is the history of radio at UW Green Bay, just specifically focusing on that history. As we celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the revival of student radio at GB next semester, we want to talk about the early beginnings, what happened in between, and how student radio got to where it is today. This focus will be through documentation from the GB archives. Okay, hold on. Through the GB archives, as well as interviews with alumni who are part of WGBW, so the original student radio, before it dissipated. For news values, follow-up, entertainment, proximity. We can use photos and other items from the archives, and we can also use photos. They can be taken of our new studio for comparison of like how things looked and how things work. As for sources, Mike Stavipak, he was an 82 comm grad. We can reach out to him. And we've also found some other sources we can use as well. But Brian Rammer, the director of alumni outreach, and also Dr. Carr, he's the current faculty advisor for Radio GBX. And then we also threw in Professor Kavli as well, because he is going to be filling in for Dr. Carr when he's on sabbatical to be the advisor. We would also want to talk to Radio GBX board members, so whoever's available, so that'd be Joseph, Johnny, Josh, or Val. And then also, obviously, Deb Anderson in archives. She's already been a wonderful help so far. For our angles, discussing the path that radio has had at GB through the lens of current students, faculty, staff, and alumni who have been part of the original station. And then overall, just like the beginnings, what happened in between and, where it is now. As for how will you sound in pictures, so we can use photos from the past from the archives, and then take photos of the current studio to give a visual of like how it's changed over time over the course that it has been on campus. And also it's kind of 50-50 if we'll find anything, but if we can find audio recordings in the archives, that can be used to amplify how content and programming has changed between the time it started and where it is now. As for timing considerations, we don't have any other than the fact that response time from alumni, but yeah.
For our second pitch, we were talking about the impact of the economy on students and the rising cost to exist. The idea is to track and interrogate the increasing cost of living for students on and off campus at UW schools. As the cost of living and existing has increased in the last 3 years, we want to investigate how the recent uptick in costs has impacted the students living on and off campus. Investigating the national average cost of living for people aged 20 plus and comparing and contrasting on-campus living costs across UW campuses in the state. Using student testimony and data from housing staff, we can investigate how students are being affected and what staff is doing to help adjust to the rising costs. Values would be relevance, familiarity, proximity, and impact. Visual multimedia, it's going to be a very number heavy story. So graphs, infographics, comparing between on campus, off campus, and then the different schools. And then commuters, we can use statistics for overall cost of living for students for people aged 20 to 24. And then we can use photos of residence halls, rooms, cafeteria, and other campus provided accommodations. Sources, we have Frankie Bright, who is a commuter at UW Stevens Point. We have Desi Nichols, who's a commuter at UW Eau Claire. We were hoping to talk to UWGB housing staff, but like Daniel mentioned, we'll roll with whatever punches end up happening. But we have Ashley Hendrickson, who's the financial specialist, and then we have Kelly Thacker, who's the executive director for residential education. And then we would just want to find one more student that's lived on campus for 2 or more years, because campus living raised their prices 3 years ago. So it'd be nice to see their perspective since they have been here through the increase. And then we'd for angles, we would talk to UWGB students on and off campus for the comparison of the cost of living. We would talk to students at other UW schools and compare their cost of living on and off campus across the different UW schools and with UWGB. And then if we can, interview UWG housing staff about the cost increases and the reasoning behind them. For sound and picture, like I mentioned, we would use the infographics would be the main part of it. Timing, there's not really any. And then in special considerations, mentioning that it might be difficult to get answers from the staff.
All right. First, history of radio, GB radio. Second, financial impact of economy on GB or college student. Daniel.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll kind of said what you talked about in advanced reporting. I do think the history of Radio GBX would be more entertaining, and I think would be, you know, just cooler. I mean, I know you guys kind of did a radio story in advanced reporting as well, I believe, and I think it'd be kind of cool just to share. You guys did like a broader radio aspect. I think it'd be cool to focus on Radio GBX, and I think it was, you know, not to just shed light, but like just talk about it, because now it's officially going. And again, we just talked about this Monday, I believe, but like just talking about, you know, what it means now for the university as well, what it provides, and you know, I think the next steps to grow the business. And like, you know, we're growing the 4th of a state now. It'll be like, well, we're growing, you know, the radio business here, the communication major, but also just Radio GBX, the brand in general, and like what that has to offer. And again, I think it's just gonna be really hard for housing to get you there a physical definition, I guess, of why they raise the cost. And I think they can go a lot of ways, and I don't think you'll get a clear cut answer. And again, they might just give you, or they might not want to give you anything just because it would be a bad representation on themselves. So that's where I stand.
Austin.
Yeah, so Daniel and I both work for housing, and like we kind of like pretty much to echo everything he said. Like, who knows like how deep they're going to go into like talking about it. Last year I tried to do a story where I talked to two of the people in housing, and they pretty much kind of like deflected it and didn't really give me too much feedback. So talking to them probably isn't going to provide you like really good information.
Oh. Okay. Others? All right, it seems everyone are somewhat exhausted. And Michael.
Yeah, I think I like both stories.
Yes, me too.
It looks like on the housing story, you've done a really good job of researching who you'd like to talk to. I think if housing doesn't talk to you to give you quotes or interpret what's going on, the least they could do is give you the costs of providing housing for students who live on campus over the last 5 years. I mean, what did a student pay for housing for the last 5 years? You could see that it's gone up, and then you can figure out the percentage that it's gone up. As far as I don't know if can you get stats from the cafeteria on their, you know, what is a hamburger called? What is a hamburger cost now compared with 5 years ago? I don't know, but that might be something that the cafeteria might be able to supply to you, the food services. And then the city of Green Bay and Brown County have kept records of the cost of living in the city and the county. So they would have a little better handle and more accessible figures on the cost of living as it's, whether it's gone up or down in the last 5 years. And if you needed help on that, I could try to help you with that. On the first story, Grace, did you get any help from Brian Rammer, and did an alum get back to you?
So actually, we were going to use alum in the first story, but we never did. But I did end up emailing Brian back to let him know, and he just said, "Let me know if you need anything else." Based on the, I think it was either you or Brian, I can't remember, shared that article with us. So when Colin and I were going through Wednesday, looking at names, and then we're going to reach out to Brian. For sure, Mike said he'd be contacted, and then I did find another source. I think he was a DJ at WGBW. I think Norb, I think his name was. We're gonna reach out to him too, because Radio GBX was also working on some stuff. So I kind of have some
Good.
connections already there, and Brian, I'm sure, might have some too. But we have a bunch of names we found that, and then we're gonna reach out to Brian to see what he can do. But it sounds like we at least have 2 alumni that
Yes,
more than
Norb
likely will
Rozek.
be able to.
Norb Rozek was the guy.
Okay, I'm not sure if Norb is the guy, but I have a list of alums, of UW Green Bay alums who are willing to do a 1-hour seminar for the class next spring. One of them is a radio guy that used to
Okay.
work at the radio station. If it's not, I can't remember his name, but if this
Was it Adam?
I have to go back and look at my list. I don't have it. I'm sorry.
That's
In
okay.
front of me. But if this story is chosen, I'll get that name to you.
Okay, let's go quick. Time to vote. History of GB radio. Raise your hand. Oh. And financial issue, student finance. Oh, probably it's a half and half. Just one? Mason? No, Mason, no. Oh yeah, already Colin and Grace will write a story about history of radio in my advanced reporting. So I want them to write financial story also. So, okay, Grace smiled, yeah. But, okay, can you go deeper in radio more?
Yeah, we found information from the previous story that we didn't use that we're gonna further dig on, but Archives has a lot of information we can
Okay,
use.
we found a very interesting story about radio, why we have to keep radio. You presented it at the first story, right? It's really interesting. So yeah, okay. Please add that piece into the fourth estate, okay? Sounds good, everyone? Yeah. Okay, I will not torture you. Lastly, somewhat frustrated. There was a team, Brianna, Tanya, and Lindsay. I did not get any email. I even asked them to come during this meeting, but they did not show up. Their stories are majors being changed, some are removed, potential decrease in staff and professor, and theater majors being removed. Yeah. Students getting angry and upset. Students have been sending petition to the major program at GB. And this is because university are through budget cuts and financial struggles. Yeah. Okay. Everyone knows about this issue, right? Everyone heard about it, right? Yeah. Theater, economic, yeah, majors being changed. I'm gonna briefly mention this. Second one is how to promote more students for club campus events. GB night bingo are hit while other events are not. There are a lack of attendance. Why? GB wants to push students' engagement, but not all the events gaining attention. Why? Yeah. Interview students, staff putting these events together behind the scene, staff that work these events. Are there any other events to attract the students? How can we promote events differently and effectively? Why are bingo and GB nights are so popular? So more promotion. So I'm gonna, because none of are them. So first topic is majors being changed and cut, and how to promote more students. And let's go to Josh first.
Oh, I just want to say for the first story, as if that one gets chosen, I just want them to make sure that they're careful, because like the majors aren't being removed, they're being considered to be dropped.
Considered to be dropped. Okay.
Yeah, so, like they say that, like they say they're being removed.
Okay.
But they're not right now. That decision will come in February.
Okay. Others? Others? Oh my God, so tired. Yeah, even though, but very great discussion. And others. For me, if Brianna, Lindsay, and Tanya took my courses, I'm okay to go for the first story. This is somewhat sensitive issue, but none of them took my courses, and none of them, I do not know none of them. So I'm not sure how their reporting skill is. It's somewhat sensitive, but my opinion is the second story is very, very important also. Both stories are clearly, both stories clearly defined what is the problem. I also know that this is the problem. I heard a lot from multiple student organizations. I wish this story would be covered by someone. So yeah, this is a little bit lighter, but very, very important story for student life, engage student life. Daniel.
I mean, I'll just share my quick input. I just feel like that second story is just, it might sound repetitive that why people aren't showing up. It just might because I just feel like the same answer might be repetitive. Like, oh, there's no giveaways, or the lack of social media presence, or just the lack of awareness around the event. I just feel like that's going to be probably the main points. And I mean, they could try to look deeper into it. I feel like if you do it, I feel like they would need to do polls of why students don't want to go, just if it's like
yes,
fun or something like that. I mean, the first story I'm just worried about, and also I'm just worried about the first story. It's tough because I doubt like the chancellor will go specifically into it, especially with like us if we're trying to report on it, just because I just feel like just trying to get answers for kind of both stories might be a little difficult. But I mean, either or I think would be interesting to write.
And Mason.
Yeah, kind of on the same lines as Daniel. I think personally, I think the first story is the better story, but it is a harder hitting news story, and you're not going to get people to say, this is why we're potentially thinking about cutting these majors, besides maybe budgets and stuff like that. But you're not going to get like any clear answer. It's going to be, we're cutting this, but no one's going to be affected. They always got to phrase it in a way that is happier. But but the second story was yeah, like Daniel said, you're gonna do polls and you're gonna come out with one, maybe two answers, and that's what your whole story is gonna be on, is about a survey. I just don't see the story being that long and that engaging, where I think the first story is gonna be a nice, long, engaging story if they can get their facts in there and really dig deep into it. But it's gonna be a tough story to get some information.
All right. And Michael.
I think the first story is definitely the way to go. It's breaking news. If I think that there's enough in the news release from the administration to get you into the story. What's lacking in what the university released is how the students feel about this, especially the students in those classes. And what about freshman students who decided to go to UW Green Bay because they had a theater class, and now they won't be able to get a major? They'll certainly be able to get a minor, but is that going to affect them? Maybe they're going to transfer to it. They're thinking about transferring to a different school. So I think that's while you might not get a clear answer from the university on what's really happening, the students who will be affected will be. I'm more than happy to tell you all about it.
All right. Others? No? All right. Mason.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on that for a sec. Maybe something that they could look into. I know the university said nothing was going to be affected, but I would just be curious about how it's not going to be affected through the theater department, because I know they put on a ton of plays and stuff like that. So I was curious about how the plays that they're going to put on are not going to be affected.
And Grace.
I just read an article recently that, I mean, this is all talks and everything because of all the budget cuts going on, but with these majors, what I read in the news was that it's all skeptical, but if these majors get cut, they still will be minors, more than likely. So they're not going to be completely cut, but the programs are going to be dwindled to just minors.
Okay.
So I think touching on that, if this, I mean, this is brand new, it was rumors and now there's news stories about it now, but it's a topic that should be kind of treaded lightly on and how you ask things too.
All right. Time to vote. Time to vote. Major changed. Yeah, raise your hand. Major change. Oh. Okay. And lack of engagement and club, and why? I think this is also important. Yeah. Okay. Again, I do not know Brianna, Lindsay, and Tanya. I never met her in person. I just met her, Lindsay Cat, few times. So I do not know. I know most of you. I know most of you. So I know how you may report. So I'm really bit wondered whether they can write and cover well the first story. So you understand what I mean? So yeah. So based on the decision, yeah, I'm gonna ask them to write the first, but I'm gonna clearly warn that yeah, you can also think of writing the second one also. Yeah. And I need to discuss more because none of them are shown up. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's it for the meeting. I have two things to talk to you. So the first, the deadline of first draft is our final week, but try to write as soon as possible. Probably at the week of 13. That means we can publish more. We can read. I and Michael will read earlier, and we can publish. And you may submit your final draft later. Submit your final draft earlier than others, and we can publish this important story at the week of final week of 14. Makes sense, everyone? Especially for campus safety issue, right? Yeah. And second. 2 weeks later, it's Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving break, am I right? 2 weeks later? No? Yeah, 21st is a Thanksgiving break, right? That means we will meet 3 weeks later to share your progress. Sounds good, everyone? Yeah, how do you think, Michael? Yeah. Michael, sounds good?
Yeah, what date would that be for the?
Oh. It will be June, and of course, it will be December 1st. December 1st. 3 weeks later. Yeah. If I ask you to gather at Thanksgiving, of course, I will not be available. You may not be available, right? Yeah. All right. That's it for the meeting. Do you have any questions? Any questions? Anything to share?
Grace, if you're still on there, I did send you a little note on the guy's name, so.
Yep.
I hope
We
that
saw it.
helps.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Really great discussion. Yeah, I'm sure that this story will be really great. Thank you so much and have a great weekend.
You as well. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Michael, I really like today's discussion. Michael, yeah.
That was
Very
good.
Great discussion. Yeah. stories are being published, and I'm sure that if these stories are published, all these stories are published well, yeah, our dean and our faculty really like it. Yeah, for sure.
That's good. Now, just
Yeah.
they're going on right now is a Zoom training session at the Daily Cardinal
Oh, yeah.
involving a guy by the name of Katz. He's an announcer for ESPN. He covers college basketball.
Oh,
And he's in the Cardinal office right now. And they're recording it as a Zoom meeting.
oh,
So I'm going to join it as soon as this is done. And then I'll send you the link
please.
to
Yeah.
the Zoom meeting. I think anyone who is in your class who is interested in sports writing would want to view this Zoom meeting.
Okay. It's already done. It's already done, right?
Well, it started at 3:30 and it's probably still going on now. So if you're
right.
interested,
Right now?
if you're interested, I'll send you the link.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna send the email. Okay.
So I'm gonna leave this meeting right now and then I'll send
Okay,
you
okay,
the
okay.
link, and then you can join in.
All right.
Andy Katz is his name. He's a Cardinal alum and he's a big time sports announcer.
All right.
All
right. All right.
So I'll leave you now. That was a good meeting.
Oh, really great meeting. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll see you in a few minutes in another Zoom.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna move to my office. As you know, this is newsrooms here, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna move to my office and be there. Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
All right. See you in a minute.
See you.
All right.